and welcome to the Weight of Her Name podcast, and welcome back if this is not your first time here. I am your host, Deanna, and today on this episode, we're going to be talking about grief and how it changes the way we love, how it touches our relationships, or what it feels like when there is no relationship left to hold on to. That is what we're going to be getting in today. This episode is definitely one of those episodes you just kind of want to listen to because I wrote this one out. I just felt like this one is a little bit more important and I wanted to stay on topic about it because this is something I feel like it's not talked about enough in these situations. So bear with me. Keep on listening. Let's get to this episode. All right. When loss enters a home, it doesn't knock first. It just rearranges everything. When we lose a child, the world stops, but it doesn't stop the same way for each of us. One partner might want to talk about it every day. The other can barely say the baby's name without breaking. One searches for photos. One puts them away. Neither is wrong. They're just two different languages of survival. Grief doesn't ruin love, it reveals it. It shows the shape of who we are when we're stripped down to only the truth. You sometimes, after loss, the person beside you feels far away. You look at them and think, how can they laugh again when I still can't breathe? That distance can feel like betrayal, but sometimes it's just protection. Grief builds walls to keep us standing, and those walls can shut out even the ones we love most. If you're married or partnered, you might learn how to sit together in silence without fixing, without comparing, without needing it to look the same. Love after loss asks for a quieter kind of strength and one that chooses presence over answers. So the reason I think this is so important to talk about is because I think it's very easy to assume that the person that we are sharing this child with doesn't grieve the same way that we do. And because they don't grieve the same way we do, that must be a problem, right? But on the contrary, that is not true. Grief is unique. Grief is unique to solely the person that is grieving. Not all grief is going to be the same way for everybody, especially if it's a different or same situation. It's not always going to be the same, and I don't think that is talked about enough. How the communication of your grief is definitely very, very, very important. If you are feeling a type of way, please do not feel like you need to hold it in. Now, I am by no means a professional. I'm no counselor. I did not go to school to study brains or tell people what to do. Nothing like that. I am simply just another parent who went through a loss of a child who feels like I can some way, shape, or form hopefully help at least one person out there. That is where my admiration for this comes from. That is where my purpose for this podcast comes from, because I think we can all use a little help, even if the person isn't technically a professional. You know what I mean? Sometimes you just want to know that there's another person out there that kind of feels the same way that you do, and that's why I'm here. And so I highly believe that communication is huge thing to do when you are grieving. Being able to talk to the person that's next to you and tell them, hey, this is how I'm feeling. Because it's very easy to feel lonely when you're going through grief, okay? So that's why I think it's very important we talk about this subject. These is just some snippets of things that we might hear or people might said to themselves about grief. So when a baby dies, grief doesn't sound the same for everyone. Sometimes it echoes between two people trying to understand each other, and sometimes it just echoes back to one. He doesn't understand that my body remembers the due date, the empty arms, the way the air feels heavier on anniversaries. He wants to move forward, but my world still stopped. When he says, let's try again someday, I hear forget. I need space to fall apart. I need him to hold me without trying to fix me. I need him to say her name, because silence hurts more than loss. I don't know how to help her. I see her drowning and everything I say feels wrong. I want to be strong for us both, so I hold it in. But she thinks my quiet means I don't care. The truth is, I lost a child too. Maybe not in the same way, but I still woke up missing the future we were supposed to have. My distance isn't indifferent. It's survival. I'm just trying not to break in front of her. There wasn't anyone beside me. No one to hold my hand in the hospital. No one to remember the date. Some days I pretend I'm fine because people stop checking after a while. The world moves on and I'm still here, stuck between love and absence. I wonder what it would feel like to have someone whisper their name with me, to be seen as more than my loss. But I'm learning even alone, my love still counts. It doesn't need to be witnessed to be real. And then there are the parents who love was questioned before it was even seen, the ones who had to explain their family before they could grieve it. We were told we were brave for wanting a child, but when we lost them, it got quiet, too quiet. The doctors avoided eye contact. Some people didn't know what to say, so they didn't say anything at all. We were parents only for a moment, but in the moment, we were whole. We dreamed the same dreams. We painted a nursery. We picked out names. And when they died, the world forgot we existed as a family at all. But we did. We do. Our love made a child. Our grief made us parents still. Love doesn't need permission to be real. Grief doesn't ask who's allowed to feel it. And yet so many still have to fight to be recognized as parents, even in their pain. If that's you, please know your love is valid. Your loss is sacred. Your child is real. You don't need the world to understand and keep loving them out loud. You already are. And the reason I wanted to add this little snippet of some of the feelings people feel, some of the things people say to themselves, is because, like I said, I think it's important that we don't assume how someone is feeling, because when we go through loss, it's easy to get lost in ourselves, and it's easy to want someone to want to be in this. Not necessarily, you don't want people to be in the situation, right? But you want them to somehow feel that, why is the world still going when I'm feeling this way? I need the world to just stop. I need somebody to feel me and to help me through my pain. And it's like, I like it to put this out there because we're a community here. It doesn't matter. You're straight, gay, trans, I don't care. Single mom by choice, single mom not by choice, adoptive parent, surrogate, it doesn't matter. We are all human beings at the end of the day. And you are not alone in your grief, even when sometimes it feels like you are. But never assume that the person that, is sitting next to you, or the person that's comforting you, or the person that is checking in on you every day, don't assume that, that they're just happy as can be, that life just continued on and they're going with it and they feel nothing. I don't want people to assume that. I want people to be able to communicate their feelings to one another, even though it might feel hard in that moment, right? And like, if you're feeling some type of way, don't feel like you have to just stop what you're doing and go talk to that person. No, but communicate, because nobody knows how you feel. You don't know how they feel. And it's not fair to assume the way somebody is feeling in the moment. And especially when it comes to grief, you don't want to just assume how someone feels about the situation, right? In my marriage, I got to feeling lonely after I lost Atticus. I felt very lonely. But over time, I also learned that we grieve different, and that's okay. I felt like the world completely should have stopped, but it just kept going, right? I felt like my heart just completely exploded, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to pick up the pieces, and I'm just like, how can my wife just go back to work? Well, because she has to go back to work. Somebody has to pay the bills, right? They weren't just going to give us money because we lost our daughter. That wasn't going to happen, right? Life was just going to continue on. I eventually had to learn how to grieve, but also cope and function. But that doesn't mean that she was not. She was grieving. She was just grieving in her own way, and that was okay. And eventually I became okay with that. Not that I was mad at the way that she was grieving. Sometimes I'd ask her, like, how do you feel about this, that, and the other? She'd tell me. So, I mean, I can't necessarily say that we did not communicate. We communicated very well. I was able to understand her grief because we communicated very well. But every situation isn't like me and my wife's. There are people out there that can't communicate very well or don't know how to communicate or know how to communicate their grief and how they're feeling. So that is the whole point why I wanted to talk about this today, because I think it's important that people know that they're not alone. You are not grieving alone. And because you might be in a relationship or partnered or have somebody that's always looking out for you or whatever the case may be, you are not alone. They can still be grieving. Talk about it, because even sometimes that can help you get through your grief. Because knowing that, okay, well, I know I'm not alone necessarily in how I'm feeling, that sometimes can make you feel better about it. But one way or the other, even if you're like a single parent or, donor conceived, whatever the case may be, you're coming here to find a community of people who maybe feel some type of way that you do. And that is why you're here. So it's important to know that just because I'm grieving one way and you're grieving another way, or like we might be in the same situation, doesn't mean we're grieving the same. It's unique to me. It's unique to you. But we're all out here together, right? We're all grieving. So I thought that was a big reason why we needed to talk about this and why I needed to put this episode here in the podcast. So keep up with me here. Every kind of love teaches us something about loss. Whether it's marriage held together by threads of understanding, a love that was never given its place in the world, or a love that now lives in memory, they all speak the same language underneath. Grief reminds us that love never fits neatly inside definition. It stretches, it bends, it survives things that should have broken it. So maybe what matters most isn't how we define our relationships, but how we keep showing up for them. In the silence, in the distance, in the moments we don't have the right words for. Because no matter what your love looked like, whether it was loud, quiet, hidden, celebrated, it mattered. It still does. And that's where we'll leave today, in the space between love and loss, where both can still exist, even when it feels impossible. The space between two people in grief can feel impossible, but maybe that space isn't always something that closed. Maybe it's something in honor. Inside that space is everything unsaid, the love we're both trying to protect in different ways. Grief and love doesn't cancel each other out. They learn how to share a room. Some days love whispers louder, other days grief takes up all the air. But both are proof of what mattered. If you're trying to find your way back to each other, go slow. You don't have to understand to still be kind. You don't have to agree to still choose love. And if you're doing this alone, your strength is not invisible. Your love didn't disappear just because no one else saw it. It's still here. It's still yours. It still belongs to the child you miss. So whether your grief is shared or silent, remember this. Love doesn't end. It changes shape. It keeps showing up, even in the quiet, even when no one knows how to name it. Thank you for being here, for letting me sit with you in this truth. If today's episode spoke to your heart, share it with someone who needs a reminder that love and grief can coexist. Because here we know grief has no finish line, only love that keeps finding its way back. All right, so sorry about that. This is our ending. I just have to help myself with something, but at the end of the day, yes, this is a very important topic and a very important subject. So I'm glad that you guys just sat here and listened with me today. I really hope that, we see you again next week here on Thursday at 7:30. We will have another episode. We're getting very close to our last few episodes. We're already on episode 5. Crazy. We only have 7 more episodes to go. And we're getting close to the end. So we will be having a viewer / submission episode where we talk about our lost loved ones, and we talk about some of the stuff that we would have loved to been able to say to them. So just always remember, in the description below, I'm gonna have the link that helps you submit a form. You can always go ahead and drop it down in the comments. I will be able to see and read it there. Yeah, thank you for coming. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time for the next episode, and you guys be great. And like I said, go ahead, comment, subscribe, especially if any of this resonated with you today, or somebody that it can resonate. Go ahead and share it with them. And we hope to see you all back here next week.